Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Time Management, The Trick and the Trap, Acharya Prashant with Delhi University 2023. So, I can't remember if it's Acharya or someone else that talked about, or I think it's Acharya. I hope I said his name right, Acharya. That talked to someone who was asking about troubles with, it was trying to play guitar. He likes musical instruments and trying to study at the same time, but every time he studies, he's thinking about musical instruments. And I think my answer to that was time management, to set aside time for specific things. That way you can focus and just try to focus on what you're doing during this period of time. It's kind of like meditation to a lot of degree, where people who can't meditate or concentrate, best to just set a time frame. It doesn't matter where you meditate or not. The whole point is to set a time, do it every day. Eventually your body will adjust to it, because whatever time frame that you set, your body's used to whatever it was doing at that time. But if you constantly do it, your body, generally speaking, your body will hopefully adjust to it, and then you can start focusing. Again, meditation is, I believe meditation is very much like that. At least I think for me it would be, and for most people out there, I'm assuming. Again, worth a shot. If you're really struggling, take any free advice that doesn't cost any harm or cost anything at all. Give it a shot. It might work for you, it might not. So I'm kind of curious. It says the trick and the trap for time management. I believe in it. I mean, I don't necessarily think that it works for everyone, perhaps, but anyways, let's hear what it has to say.
Hello, sir. So, you have always said that having a rich overall personality is very important, and therefore, you lay stress on the importance of extracurricular activities in schools and colleges. But as a student, my problem is that I don't find time for extracurricular activities. And in fact, I see that as a general problem for a lot of people in campus. We don't have enough time to engage ourselves in extracurricular activities, and therefore student participation is not that great. Students are not participating, be it in sports or in dramatics or any other forms of extracurricular activities. What I experience is that there is a huge time pressure on us, and I just don't find time for everything. So, please say something.
This surprises me. I used to think that schools and colleges now are focusing much more on the extracurriculars than used to happen in my time. I'm surprised by this question, because the funds now are bigger. The campuses have more amenities. How is it that extracurriculars are not being promoted? Because you see, if I look at when I was in college, the late 90s, it would have been very difficult to find a squash court outside the IT campus. One would need to travel 5, 10, 15, I don't know how much, maybe 20 kilometers. A swimming pool, again, not something you could very commonly find even in the capital of India. And even if there were pools, they are not necessarily accessible to students. Even if they were accessible, they were not necessarily affordable.
Wow,
So
yeah,
things have changed. You have better libraries, more amenities. There are clubs. There is just so much. And if you're not making use of that, I suppose that would be because of priorities that you are setting, not because of the availability of resources. The priorities then depend so much on you. Uh,
Real quick on that. Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm trying to work on a few things, and I am so distracted. I am super distracted. There's something that I've been meaning to work on and complete, but I keep getting distracted. And he's absolutely right. It's the priorities. And the sheer fact that I want to throw in another thing here is that maybe schools are demanding more from their students as well. It's not necessarily like they're distracted and partying or wanting the leisure, but maybe schools are requiring much more projects outside of the class. You have to spend 3 hours on this project every day just to finish it on time from 6 months from now. So I don't know. That's very much a possibility too. That their classes require more from students now than they did in the past as well.
My batch strength was 350. Out of these 350, I suppose 325 would have never stepped on the tennis court even once in those 4 years of BTech.
Oh.
That's a choice that you make. The court is there, it's available. You don't want to step on the court, that's a choice that you make. The pool is there, the swimming pool is there. 300 out of 350 students never went to the pool. The dramatics club was there, elocution or debating, extempore, or poetry, composition, recitation, photography club, dance, music, creative writing. But most students simply didn't participate. Now, whether you participate or not depends on your zeal towards life. Because obviously it takes a lot. You have your regular load of academics. And then after that you have to invest yourself in something else. Be it sports or dance, dramatics, or some tech hobby. It requires a more careful and disciplined organization of your time. And if you're allowing, let's say, 2 or 3 hours of the day to be taken away by social media, right? You go to bed at 11 in the night, and then you finally fall asleep only at 1:30 a.m. We usually don't account for that time, right? We say, I had gone to bed. The fact is, you were awake. You were awake and conscious, and those 2.5 hours have been deeply wasted. It's a huge waste. And then we say we don't have time for extracurriculars. You look at the number of views and likes, etc., that a usual Instagram reel or YouTube short has. Huge millions, not small millions. Sometimes the number of likes itself is in millions. And it's the young people who are watching those things. That time obviously should have been rightfully spent in doing something better. So if you say you have a shortage of time, is that real? Really a short of time?
I wonder. I don't know what I'm trying to make a guess here. What is actually asking? There's two things, or is there two things? But it's more along the lines: do you actually have short of time? No, you have the same amount of time no matter what. You have 24 hours in a day. It's not that in one day you have 20 hours, and another day you have 26. No, you always have 24 hours. The reason why it seems shorter is because you're not paying attention to the time that you're spending. Your time is, you do things throughout the entire day without paying attention to time or being aware of how long you are doing something, like taking a shower, pooping, like doing activities, whatever it may be, doing your homework, studying and all that. Time tends to fly. I guess maybe that's the reason why for the time management. The other thing would be it's more of I guess the feeling of shortage of time.
If you're short of time, who is watching all those reels and pushing the like button? Who's doing all that? You do that, right? Look at all the trash influencers and
It's talking about me.
60
Oh
million
no.
followers, 80 million followers.
Oh, never mind.
Who's following them? And following somebody has costs and repercussions, right? Could you have not better spent that time on the tennis court or the swimming pool or in the library or on the dance floor? I'm asking you. And think of the cumulative time you accord to all the wasteful portfolios.
I will say this, just a slight counter to what he's saying there. Now, it all depends on what you're watching on YouTube, obviously. If you're watching ideas on YouTube, so for example, he's like, I want to do something. I want to do outdoorsy things. So you go up in there and just type something on YouTube, and there's generally going to be a video about everything. And it'll tell you what you can do and cannot do outdoorsy, and perhaps even within your certain city as well. So it's okay to a certain degree to go to YouTube, obviously, and look up ideas to help you, inspire you to think of things that you want to do, or try to fix things. I do that quite a bit on YouTube. I go in there, I mostly look at the reviews. I tend to watch YouTube mostly for informative things, but lately it's just been for entertainment. Although I like informative things as well, and that's the reason why I like these kind of videos, because they're more informative in terms of life, and also the questions that are asked. Even though sometimes I watch a lot of videos that are the same questions, because sometimes people have different perspectives on it.
First of all, you don't have too much time. 10 hours you spend in the necessary biological activities of the day, sleeping, hygiene, food. At least 10 hours goes towards that, and you cannot cut down on that, right? Food you have to take, bath you have to take, sleep you have to take.
Some people skip the bath. Skip the bath.
Correct? 10 hours goes towards that. In fact, more than 10 hours sometimes. That much goes towards that. 1 or 2 hours go towards commuting in many cases. Sometimes to workplace, sometimes to college.
That's
All
12
the
already.
different kinds of commutes. What are you left with?
12.
What are you left with? 12 hours? Now, of that 12 hours, you spend, let's say, 6 to 8 hours in your classroom. Is that so? Huh? And if we include the time between the classes, that often happens, right? Not all classes just abut each other. Sometimes you will have something from 9 to 10 a.m. and then the next one is at 12 noon. So 2 hours you have to simply sit in the cafeteria and while away. Does that happen?
Yes, I did not like that. I tried my best to put my classes next to each other, maybe maybe about 30 minutes in between if possible, just enough time to get to one class to another. But boy, when you have like a 2 to 4 hour between classes, that is terrible.
So effectively you are left with just 2 hours or 3 hours for self-development, for your reading, for your internal growth, for your exploration, or for just your solitary silence, when you can just be with, let's say a tree, let's say a tree, and be with yourself. All that you are left with is just 2 or 3 hours. Now, out of these 2 or 3 hours, if you devote 2 hours to Instagram, what are you left with?
1.
You're left with nothing. Those 2 or 3 hours was all that you had, and approximately everything from there has been just wasted or looted away. But we don't look at it like that. We say, oh, I gave it only 2 hours out of my 24 hours. You didn't give it 2 hours out of 24 hours. You gave it 2 hours out of the only 2 hours that you had. So you
That was a bad time to pause, bad to cough, and I might as well throw in what I want to say. That's actually a very, very, very good point. You know, when you say, "Oh yeah, I only put up 2 hours of my 24 hours," which a lot of people do look at that way. No one, there's not a lot of people I would say that look it up as, "Oh, I off the time that I have available that I have that I can do anything with. I've used it for this." So obviously you have 8 hours of sleep, about 1 or 2 hours of taking care of yourself in terms of, you know, bath, eat, and whatnot. Then 1 to 2 hours of commuting, perhaps. Here's a hack, a joke hack: poo or do your bathroom stuff while at class, not in class, but you know, say you have to go use the restroom, and what was it? And eat while driving. I do it. Be very, very careful though. But these are terrible ideas, and I do not suggest it. But you know, shortcuts you can do. You can. I mean, to me, I eat while I drive. It's very simple and pretty easy. You know, and then a lot of people saying has this saying while working. It's like, you know, I ma- I make a dime, my boss makes $1. That's why I poop on their hour or something like that. So basically, they use the restroom at work because you get paid for it anyway. So it's kind of like, but it works a little bit differently, I say, in a class, because you could be missing out some lectures that are very important unless you put a recorder, hit record, and just leave it there while you go use the restroom. But terrible advice. Terrible advice. Don't follow it.
gave it 2 out of 2 hours. Now what are you left with? Not only have you wasted time, you also have accumulated some filth here. And then it feels as if we genuinely are victims of time pressure. It does feel. You talk to anybody and he would sincerely say, you know, I'm short of time. I want to do a lot of good things in life, but I feel short of time. Here is my reading list. These are the books I want to really finish off this year, 2023. And it's already March. And I have not even finished one of these, let's say, 10 books. Where is the time? Where is the time? These are the places that I want to visit as a young person. I never find the time to go there. I want to hit the gym. I mean, yes, joined there and deposited the fee, and the membership was for 6 months. And all I did was 6 days. And even the membership has gone waste. That happens, right? There is no time. The fact is that there is time. So remember this very clearly. Time management is actually value management. If you know the value of something, you will give time to it. If you find you're not giving time to something, that simply means that you are according a higher value to something else.
Yeah.
When you accord a higher value to something else, then obviously your time will flow towards that thing. Your time is where your value is. You understand value? The importance you give to something. And it's a very definite thing. The more important you really consider something, the more time will flow towards it. Whether you plan it or not, whether you want it or not, it will just happen. So if you're not able to give time to something, let's say to the library or to the swimming pool, that simply means that you do not consider them important. Maybe you are paying some lip service. Formally, orally, you are declaring, oh, I find the library very important. Oh, I wanted to learn the flute this year. That's just a superficial declaration. Internally, you love some vulgar reel much more than the flute. And that's why you would spend time on that little video or the long video, whatever it is, I don't know.
real quick with that. That's an interesting. I thought of the whenever we said it, it made me think. It's like I was just imagining. It's like, oh yeah, I wanted to learn the piano, the flute, how to do karate, how to jump out of a plane, how to meditate, how to teach, how to work on cars, how to change the oil, how to rotate tires. But I didn't have time. It's like, Mike, and then I just imagine someone else like, man, there's so many things you want to do. You must have been so busy doing such important things that you did not have time for that. It's like, yes, watching YouTube. I mean, it's kind of like I think he said lip service to that, and it's like, yeah, you're right. We're sitting here saying that there's important things that we want to do, and we're just paying lip service to it to make us feel like, oh, I want to do it. I have good intentions, but instead I watch Instagram or whatever, YouTube or whatever it is, just to make us feel better. It's like, oh man, I wanted to do this, but I couldn't because of something else.
Rather than the flute. Would you remember this? Time follows your
Actions?
values.
Oh.
So if you are not giving time to something, it directly means you are not giving value to that thing. And if you are giving time to something, that means
You're giving value to
now
it.
you may keep cursing that thing. You may keep saying, oh, it's such a wasteful thing. I didn't want to, but somehow, accidentally, mistakenly, I ended up giving time to it. I never wanted to. You are lying. The thing is, you really do give a lot of importance to that thing, and that's the only reason why you gave so much time to it. Your time profile is a clear representation of your mental profile, your value profile. If you want to know who you are, that's an experiment I used to do with my students many years back. I would say just write down where your typical day goes. Show me the time distribution. And that time distribution will tell you who you are. You are where you are spending your time. That's your identity. That's your name. That's your personality.
That's an interesting one too, actually. It's kind of like it reminds me a bit of a dietitian. Whenever when you go to a dietitian, or if you ever, anyways, you go to a dietitian, they ask you, for a week, write down what you eat, so to get an idea of about like what your intake is. Very much the same is true with this one. You write down what you do throughout the day, so you can actually see where your time's being spent. I guess, and I think the thing to do if you do that is not to lie to yourself, as in don't do things that you would not normally do on a typical day. You're like, oh man, I'm writing this down and let me do something important, because then you'd be lying to yourself. Or don't lie. It's like, oh, I didn't quite do that for 2 hours, but I'll write down 2 hours even though I did it for 5 minutes. You have to be truthful to yourself, so that way you can make changes and adjustments appropriately. And I was going to say a little trick, I suppose, that can kind of help maybe get you into doing it would be like, for example, if you like watching YouTube videos and you have something to do, maybe on whatever it is that you're doing, say, let me do about to get to this point of whatever I'm doing. And when I get to this point, let me watch a video or two. Then after a video or two, let me get back and say, that's about 25%. Then let me do another 10%. And then after 10%, let me watch a video or two. Then after a video or two, go back and say maybe 15%. That way at least you're kind of doing what you intend to do and still getting some enjoyment of the other thing that you're trying to do. That's a decent start, but hopefully you can eventually focus on the task until it's complete, and then maybe take a break and enjoy watching a video or two, and then doing another task that you want to do in completion, and then going back and just taking a break. Do a complete task, break. Do a complete task and break. I mean, it all depends on how many tasks you got to do, and whatever else you have to do throughout the entire day. Maybe you only have one task, finish it all, or break it up in time. Just make sure you try to do good time management to it.
If you want to know who a person is, just see where he or she spends his time. If you want to know who you are, just see where you are spending your time. and that will very clearly tell you who you are. Beyond your words, beyond your declarations, beyond your intentions, beyond your presumptions and pretensions, that will show you the mirror. Just see where your time goes. Do that objectively. Because if you will just think, you will say, no, I don't waste my time. Write it down. 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. This is what I really did. You'll be surprised at the kind of time that is available to you, but is wasted, frittered away. You'll be surprised. You will say, but the productive time in the entire 24-day cycle is just 2 hours. Though I feel occupied the entire day. No, feeling is such a deception. You will continue to feel busy and occupied, whereas the fact is that you have just wasted your time. And when somebody will come to talk sense to you or to scold you a little, you will feel victimized. You will see, all the day I have been doing constructive work. All the day I have been so busy. Look how tired I am. Even this little thumb is paining. Why is the thumb really paining? Every single muscle in the body is paining, especially this thumb. And this fellow is accusing me of wasting my time. That feeling will definitely arise. Never live by your feelings. That's one mark of a wise human being. He or she learns to dissociate himself, herself from the feelings. That does not mean that you have to trample or destroy your feelings. No. That simply means that you have to know the truth of your feelings.
Okay.
Feelings deceive.
The way I took that was, obviously don't let your feelings control your actions. Be aware of them. You get the feeling that the person that you're talking to is hostile. So be wise about it and say, depending on how the discussion goes, but maybe you said something that they didn't like, but then you get this feeling like, oh, maybe they're hostile. He's like, oh, let me try to change it up a little bit. It's like, and to reassure them that your intention is not to do that. You're not going to say, oh, I don't mean to be hostile. No, you're going to be like saying, explain in such a way that's very neutral. I don't know if that's the right word. Not in a way that's neutral, but truthful. I guess that's the right word for it. Because obviously, people take things differently. Even if no matter what your intentions are, your job is to be truthful, but be understanding that some people don't understand the way you talk sometimes, the way I talk sometimes. So I have to try to be aware of that. It's not to change what I say, it's just to change how I say it, but still have the same meaning behind it. But for the most part, I think as long as you're being genuine and honest, if someone gets offended because they don't like your opinion, that's a different story. You're not gonna change your opinion. You can change how you deliver the opinion, but the opinion's the same nonetheless. That's what I'm basically saying. Is that give your opinion, how you deliver the opinion. You could adjust it in some way, but the truth must prevail of your opinion.
Feelings can come from anywhere. Be objective. Want to know yourself? Make a proper table. Make a proper table for, let's say, 10-15 consecutive days. And then you will be ashamed at the kind of wastage you are inflicting on yourself. You will say, my God, this is what I'm doing to my life? Only 2 hours of productive thing any day. And the rest of it, can't even say where that flies away. I'm just wasting it all. Try that, would you? Make a proper table of where your time is really going. And don't lie. Don't lie, at least not to yourself. Sometimes it's okay to lie to others, but it's never, never okay to lie to yourself.
Okay. So yeah, I agree with what a lot he has to say. Again, obviously, the things that I add is my personal experience, my personal thoughts, and my personal opinion. And if it was theirs, like, could you ask him? It's like, oh, do you want to add this to that? He could, yeah, maybe agree, maybe disagree, or he can explain why. That's the important thing. Obviously, whatever he says here, if you have any confusion, you can't exactly ask him. So, essentially what I'm saying is, if you disagree with what he has to say, it's best to hope for, and you can ask him the question, and hopefully he gives you a clearer answer. I think a lot of people get mad at certain people on YouTube for their opinion because they just disagree with their opinion. Why am I getting into this? But anyway, you disagree with their opinion, but because they didn't clarify. But you have to understand that it's not a two-way discussion. It's just a one-way, in a sense, one way, and then you hope that you say enough that can clear what your thoughts are. But it's not always going to happen. Don't know where that came from. I think it was because I watched a YouTube video before this one about something else. Anyways, and also about a few other things as well in there. So anyways, yes, it's very interesting. It's time management, the trick and the trap. I wonder what's the trap about it. And the trick. I thought a trick generally, with the trick and the trap, I thought a trick is like it's going to trick you into something, like a deceptive. And then the trap. The trick and the trap. Trick. Anyways, that's my reaction to time management, the trick and the trap by Prashant. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.